Hello, welcome to Valley Veterans, a program highlighting veterans from the Miami Valley and produced by the Miami Valley Veterans Museum. The museum is located at 2245 South County Road 25A in Troy, Ohio. Phone number 937-332-8852. It's an excellent museum. I recommend it to your attention, so make it a point sometime to stop by. My name is Michael DeHart, better known as Mick. I'm here with Carol DeHart, who has been instrumental in this journey that we've made. Also, I'm here with Tristan Weiss, a former field representative with Speaker John Boehner's office in Troy. We're going to do it a little different today. I'm going to be the moderator and get to ask the questions, which should be fun, and let Carol and Tristan give their part. And for me, I think it's the most important part of this journey. Keep in mind, I kept this quiet, if you will, for 32 years. And then I went to an Army reunion, and one of the attendees had written a book about his experiences in Vietnam. I bought the book and brought it home. And therein lies the beginning. Carol, I'm going to kind of let you pick it up right there, because I think that is the very beginning of this 32-year secret.
We had been married 32 years. He brought the book home. He put it in a drawer, and probably 6 weeks later, I found it. I read it. And somewhere in this 32 years, I had put together a shadow box, not really knowing what I was doing. I just, took all his medals and put it in a shadow box. And I read the book, and I'm thinking, okay, this author has 1 silver star and 1 purple heart. And I'm looking at the shadow box on the wall, and it has 2 silver stars, 2 bronze stars, a purple heart, air medal, some Vietnamese crosses, some American medals. And I'm thinking, I don't know something here. But I let it go. I still didn't do anything about it until 2014. Valor 24 was 24 DSC recipients from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam were upgraded to Medals of Honor. And it was done at the White House, and one of them recipients it was a man that served under Mick in Vietnam. And we were invited to the White House and the Pentagon for both ceremonies. We went, and during the White House ceremony, I'm sitting beside Mick, and I look at him, and he is as white as the shirt that he had on. And I thought he was going to pass out. So,
what was happening during the ceremony that made that happen?
They were reading the citation of Jesus Duran, and I thought, there's more to this story than I know. And I don't know what's represented on that wall at home. And I'm reading, and I know he is in the same firefight that Duran was in. And Duran is being upgraded from a DSC to a Medal of Honor. And I thought, there's more to this story. So next day was the Pentagon service, and pretty much the same reaction. pale as a ghost and just having a really difficult time listening to the details of that firefight. So we came home, and about a week later, I had brought Tristan some things, memorabilia, back from the White House. So I stopped at his office, and we had a cup of coffee, and I told him about the reaction. And he said, well, let's find out about it. So we did.
Yeah, I think it was a napkin that I got, actually. from
With the
White House.
presidential seal.
I still have that napkin. Haven't framed it yet, but. I still have
Statute
that
of
napkin.
limitations has run
Yeah.
out, Tristan.
Carol, what was the book titled that you read?
Shake and Bake Sergeants.
Shake and Bake Sergeants. It was about the NCO candidates that went through Fort Benning, and most of them went to Vietnam as E5. Mick went to Vietnam as an E6,
Which is,
staff sergeant. And he was a staff sergeant the whole time he was in Vietnam. And I just couldn't put what this author wrote together with what I'm looking at on our wall. It just didn't make sense to me. So Tristan now is trying to find records.
Yeah, it wasn't 2014. That seems so long ago.
Well,
And this has really been a long time, even after
Yes.
you started coming out, Mick. Yeah, so 2014, this was brought to me, Mick, and I know you're hearing this story mostly for the first time. You know, a lot of information was given to me, but not complete information, just bits and pieces. First step was, let's get the unit records. Let's find out what is available from the Vietnam era in the archives that they could send to us. So we did that quick search. I think we got some of the battle logs, or the unit logs I think we ended up with.
Silver Springs, Maryland.
Yeah, from Silver Springs, Maryland. Those included...
after action reports,
Yeah.
I think they're called, yes.
Exactly, and I should know that. So we started looking through those, and like, yeah, a lot of this is, there was a lot that was going on. And Carol, I think you started to pick at Mick more on some details.
A lot.
We played 20 questions, a lot of nights, and while she was reading the book, she would ask me questions, and I'd have to explain what was transpiring in there at that time, And the author did an excellent job, on the book.
Well, at some point when I finished the book, I finished it and I laid it down and I said, come out here and sit down, and you need to tell me what you did, Daddy, in the service. I said, because we don't know.
I really didn't want to go down that road, but it was time. Very briefly, once she opened the can of worms, I spent the next 10 years in VA counseling, which was of tremendous help. So, but at some point in time, you two get your heads together to do something more.
Yeah, Mick, you didn't tell us the entire story. At least if you did, Carol didn't relay the entire story. There was a lot of missing pieces. I think that's when you reached out to Colonel Bertram, right?
Right. Mick's colonel, he was his lieutenant colonel at the time in Vietnam, and he moved up and retired as a colonel. So I reached out to him, and he was a West Pointer, and he pretty much kept Tristan and I in line with his expertise because he'd done this before. We were looking at an upgrade from a Silver Star to just a DSC, and then when all the letters started coming in, we said, wait a minute, this is not a DSC, this is a Medal of Honor.
what letters are you
Well,
referring to?
My part of this job was to contact the chain of command, who were all still living, and all of the men that I could contact who were in the firefight that day with Mick. And I had actually 12 of the men respond, plus his lieutenant, his captain, and his lieutenant colonel. Now, Colonel Burcham, Lieutenant Colonel Burcham, was kind of spearheading and keeping Tristan and I in line, telling us what we needed and how, to write a professional letter, how to rewrite a professional letter. Tristan did the legwork on the records. I contacted the 12 men and got letters from all of them. Colonel Burcham kind of put it in order the way it should have been and would be presented to John Boehner and then to the Secretary of the Army.
So I'm going to jump in here. These letters, Mick, these 12 letters, if no one had a clue of what this action was about, after reading these 12 letters from the viewpoint of these men that all aligned, they didn't speak to each other. And so they had no idea what anyone else wrote. All of these letters aligned and gave the exact same story.
Now these letters, all of this is referencing the April 10th firefight.
Yes.
Which I covered in an earlier episode. Is that right?
Correct.
These men wrote, they were from all over the country, and nobody wrote, nobody talked to each other, nobody sat down together to write their letters. But when the letters all came to me, I was dumbfounded.
I think I can echo that. Written like a Hollywood blockbuster.
I had no idea.
Yeah. In this case, I don't think any of these details were inflated. Not with the way they were written to align with each other so closely.
I'll take your word for it, and I'm a little ashamed to admit I haven't read them. It was too tough to go back there at that time. I'll get to it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, but I think a couple of them even credited you with saving their lives.
Yes.
That you were the reason why they came home.
There were.
So what'd you two conspirators get together next to do?
Well, Tristan went to the National
Archives,
to the Army, or well, it's all the service.
The Fort Knox is where I ended up pulling records from as well.
Right. You pulled records from Fort Hood.
And Fort Hood. Everywhere I could get my hands on records, we pulled.
Yeah.
That time, Carol was working on a graphic layout of the scene. That was one of the requirements that they needed for the upgrade. They wanted kind of a battle plan layout to show what the troop movements were.
Our niece did that. She's a landscape architect, and she did a beautiful layout of what the battle, what do you call it, area of operation, actually looked like.
That would be Becky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my niece.
Yeah. And this process started in 2014, so it wasn't a quick process.
No, it took us 1.5 years for the investigation to put all the letters and get them in order and get records, and it took us, the two of us, 1.5 years.
Yeah, and then under cover letter by Boehner, it was submitted to the Army for a recommendation to be upgraded. This included signed paperwork to have the award officially upgraded by your chain of command, the witness letters that were just absolutely amazing. Anyone that read those, I'm sure, had the same reaction. The maps plus the records, it was a complete package under a cover letter signed by Congressman Boehner at the time, and submitted to the Pentagon for review. I think that first review took 4 months, 5 months?
I don't know, there were 12 levels of review, and it got, as a Medal of Honor, it got to level 10, who was the Secretary of the Army. It's the Secretary of the Army who downgraded it to a DSC.
Yeah, we
But
pushed.
it took 3 years to, once we submitted it to the Army, it took 3 years for them to think about it.
Yeah, followed every step of the way that I could. Got regular updates from the Pentagon on it. People were very hopeful in the Pentagon. They said this one has moved on. Like, I can't tell you exactly what's happening with it, but it's moved on, which was always a positive note whenever they said it's moved on.
This was all pretty heavy for me. It didn't fit my consciousness, if you will. And but when you say downgraded to a DSC, that doesn't sound right, because a DSC is a DSC, you know.
The Distinguished Service Cross.
And that's number 2 on the hit parade, and you know.
Yeah, well, you know, Mick, after reading this, you know, Carol talking to you, me reading this, and us discussing it, there was no reason why that we shouldn't pursue it. I mean, the actions that you had that day really speak for themselves, and the men that you were leading that day, you know, I really think showed that in respect in their letters. I mean,
So
anyone should be very proud.
goes without saying, Tristan, goes without saying. So after the DSC comes down, what takes place? When do I get my hands on it?
Have you still? I mean, have you yet?
It's under my pillow.
We had a notification on May 4th of 2018 that it was actually a DSC. We had a ceremony the following in June, and at the boathouse in Troy. We had some of our best friends, our family, some people from the service. We had people from all over the country, good friends, service members, several of the men who were in the firefight with Mick that had written some of these statements.
Colonel Bertram.
We had Colonel Bertram came up from the villages. So we had a dinner and we had a ceremony. Tristan read the citation. Colonel Bertram pinned the DSC on Mick, as it should have been. And we had a party.
It really meant a lot to have Colonel Bertram pin the medal on. That was the icing on the cake, so to speak. And you guys did good. You did good.
Mick, it wasn't us. That was your story.
Yeah, to say I'm appreciative is an understatement.
Carol really led the effort to get this done. I just assisted where I could. She really drove this home for you, Mick.
Well, I thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
But had it not been on Speaker Peter's letterhead,
I don't think it
might
would
have taken
mattered.
us a little longer.
I don't think the letterhead mattered. I think the story spoke for itself.
Yeah.
Like I said, a Hollywood blockbuster without the inflation. Truly an amazing story. And that's April 10th, 1969?
9.
Yes.
Yep. And that's where your platoon was ambushed in a bomb crater on regular patrol.
Yeah. It was a long day.
Long day.
Yes.
Long 32 years.
So, anything else I should know that you two conspirators did that?
No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, you know what Carol
You know,
did.
the statute of limitations hasn't run out on you too, so.
I think Carol pretty much stood on you and said, Mick, tell me what's going on.
And,
Stood right on his chest.
yeah, my counselor got an earful during that time. And, but if I was to say anything to, I'll just refer to my people, Vietnam vets, and to their wives. The whole key was conversation. Once she opened the can of worms, my health improved. Okay. Had some fun times during that period, you know, but it was very, how did they say, therapeutic. And I thank you for that, Mrs. DeHart. And I thank you too for doing an extraordinary job, and I'm very, very grateful for how it turned out.
Me too. Just really hoping for that Medal of Honor. But Mick, you'll always wear that Medal of Honor for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This has been a program highlighting veterans from the Miami Valley and produced by the Miami Valley Veterans Museum, located at 2245 South County Road 25A in Troy, Ohio. Phone number if you want to call, 937-332-8852. We hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you.